We're going to go back to Chris Matthews, who's in Boca Raton with Stephanie Cutter, the deputy campaign manager for the Obama side.
Okay, well, let's read a lot into it. Let me go back to Stephanie. What do you make of the fact we've got 3 polls out tonight? We haven't heard from Ron Allen's focus group yet later tonight. That's a smaller group. 3 all for Obama, and one that's substantial one, CBS, among undecideds. How do they matter in the way people react to these polls? Do they wait to see who the numbers go with, or do they make their own judgment? What do you think?
Well, I think that, these instant polls after debates have an influence on how press cover these debates and the aftermath and the day after. But I think the American people who are watching the debate tonight probably made their own judgments. I think they probably came down in the same conclusion that CBS did, that they saw one commander-in-chief on stage tonight, and they saw another guy who was confused, uncertain, unsteady, and not ready to be America's commander-in-chief.
Let me ask you about this other thing tonight. I was in wonder, just like Senator Kerry was, and he's more of an expert on this because he's been working with the president on preparing for Romney. I heard a Romney that sounded almost like, well, George McGovern tonight. He was talking about a peaceful planet he wanted to live on. He talked about the principles of peace, like these phrases, he wanted to have war as a last resort. I keep coming across these phrases. He didn't sound like the hawkish guy who had gone to the hard far-right rail in the primaries and caucuses to win.
No, he absolutely didn't. And this is part of a pattern with Mitt Romney. Unfortunately, when you're talking about foreign policy, you can't have that uncertainty. You can't suddenly change your positions for your own political benefit because the world is watching. The president said it best tonight. When you're the commander-in-chief, you have to be strong. You have to be steady. You have to be certain. And you can't create confusion at home or all over the world. And I think, the world was probably watching tonight, and they were probably confused about Mitt Romney's positions on foreign policy. Let's remember, he traveled all through Europe insulting our allies and creating huge blunders, calling Russia our greatest geopolitical foe, committing to leave troops in Iraq, blunder after blunder, bluster after bluster. Well, tonight, in the closing weeks of this election, Mitt Romney suddenly tried to find a new foreign policy, which actually happens to be the president's foreign policy. But I think as a result, he just created this uncertainty about himself, his unsteadiness, a lack of strength. And that's not what we need as a commander-in-chief, and I think that's what those polls reflect.
Stephanie, I just have one last thought. I started the program earlier tonight with this. It seemed to me, looking toward tonight, I wasn't sure it would happen at all, but I thought it might happen. Up until tonight, the president, your boss, paid the price of incumbency. These have been difficult times, getting back from the catastrophe we almost hit back in 2009. Coming back from that's been painful for this country. So until tonight, he paid the price of incumbency. Tonight, he had benefited from his incumbency, his sophistication, his knowledge, his experience in leading this country safely through these 4 years. Are the next 2 weeks an opportunity for him to be president, not a debater, but president of the United States for 2 weeks? Do you have a 2-week plan to get from here, using the presidency, to the election?
Yes, and Chris, I think that the power of incumbency comes in a number of different ways. And one of them is that the American people know they can trust this president. They know this president. They know that he's got their best interests at heart, that he is fighting every single day to strengthen the middle class and keep our country safe, and they can count on him. And over the course of the next 2 weeks, I think that will be made even more clear as the president continues to lay out his agenda for a second term, how he's going to continue moving this country forward, and the choice in this election. There is a clear choice in this election about who's going to move the country forward or take us back. I think tonight, Mitt Romney's performance, as the president said, the 1980s in foreign policy, the 1950s in social policy, the 1920s in economic policy. He wants to take this country back.
Well, we hope to hear a lot from you in the 2 weeks ahead. We're going to go back to Rachel, but thank you, Stephanie Cutter. It's been great having you on, and congratulations.
Thanks,
I think you guys won tonight.